Thank you for joining the first of three-part Aquaculture Innovation Webinars jointly organized by IPI, Innovation Norway, Aquaculture Innovation Centre, and Trendlines Agri-Food. Thank you for being here on time. My name is Anton Wibowo from Trendlines Agri-Food, and I will be facilitating the flow of this webinar. As all attendees will be muted throughout the session, should you have any question during the webinar, please type them into the Q&A panel at the bottom of your Zoom window. We will first hear opening remarks from Mr. Wong Lap Wai, CEO of IPI, and Her Excellency Anita Nergad, Ambassador of Norway to Singapore. This will be followed by the plenary and panel sessions, where we will hear from an impressive lineup of experts in the aquaculture sector. So I would now like to invite Mr. Wong for his opening remark. Mr. Wong, please.
Thank you, Anton, for the introduction. Ambassador of Norway to Singapore, Her Excellency Anita Nergad, partners and friends from the global innovation and enterprise ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the first session of the Aquaculture Innovation Webinar Series organized by IPI, Aquaculture Innovation Centre, Trendlines Agri-Food, and Innovation Norway. This webinar series aims to bring together leading industry experts and researchers from Singapore, Israel, and Norway to share the latest trends in aquaculture technologies and provide a virtual platform for the exchange of ideas and best practices so as to foster collaboration opportunities in the spirit of open innovation. Climate change and the global pandemic has highlighted the volatility and fragility of food supply chains across the world. As the city-state, Singapore is heavily reliant on imports for its food needs, with over 90% of food imported from some 170 countries. To enhance food security and sustainability against the backdrop of challenges, Singapore has set an ambitious 30 by 30 goal, producing 30% of its nutritional needs locally by 2030. Technology is a key enabler to give local farmers a leg up in intensifying output efficiently and sustainably through innovation. Having converged on topics related to urban farming and sustainable agriculture in our Agri-Food Innovation Webinar series last year, we will now focus on how aquaculture innovation can play an important role in closing the food security gap. In today's webinar, themed Meeting Rising Demands, our esteemed speakers will share how the new demands in aquaculture can be met by advancing new aquatic species and high-intensity farming. The subsequent webinars in April and May are themed Breaking New Ground and Exploring the Frontier of Aquaculture Systems. The organizing committee is working hard to put together an exciting program, and I hope you will be able to join us as well. The rapid pace of technology advancements has changed how the companies approach innovation. Many are more open to seek partners that can complement the core capabilities to co-create differentiated products and services that were previously constrained by the limited resources or network. Similarly, I would like to encourage everyone here to explore the new possibilities for business growth that will be shared today. As an innovation catalyst that accelerates the innovation process of enterprises through access to our global innovation ecosystem and advisory services, IPI looks forward to being your innovation partner for impact. Please reach out to us to learn how you can gain access to a range of solutions that serve your innovation needs at www.ipi-singapore.org. To conclude, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Last but not least, my deep appreciation to the Aquaculture Innovation Centre, Trendlines Agri-Food, and Innovation Norway for the strong partnership and valuable insights. I wish you a fruitful and rewarding session today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. And now it delights me to have Ambassador Anita Nergad to give us her remarks. Ambassador, please.
Thank you, and thank you from me as well to Mr. Wong. Thank you, Anton, and thank you to IPI, the Aquaculture Innovation Centre, Trendlines Agri-Food, and Innovation Norway for organizing today's event. I'm very happy to be here. This is an important issue. Dear participants, the oceans have always been central to Norway. They are part of our history, culture, economy, and diet. The oceans have vast capacity to drive economic growth and equitable job creation, sustain healthy ecosystems, and mitigate climate change. To raise awareness about the opportunities of healthy oceans, 3 years ago, the Norwegian Prime Minister set up a high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy, or the Ocean Panel for short, which she co-led together with the president of Palau. Last year, all 14 countries on the panel from Asia, these are Australia, Indonesia, Japan, and Fiji, in addition to Palau, agreed to sustainably manage all of their national waters by 2025. We hope that more countries will join the effort. We must ensure sustainable oceans across the globe. Norway believes that protection, production, and prosperity can and must go hand in hand. The oceans can support sustainable industries of several kinds, and aquaculture is certainly one of them. Here, Norway is well placed already with our extended, biologically diverse coastline and centuries-long fishing traditions. We have tremendous expertise in aquaculture and fisheries, which we are now applying in technology development. We are among the leading producers and exporters of farmed fish in the world, in particular when it comes to farmed salmon. Today, we see increased focus on sustainability within this highly dynamic and innovative industry. New solutions are continuously being developed and tested. Offshore farming, closed containment farming systems, fully automated and remotely managed farms, extensive use of AI for increased efficiency. These are just some of the innovations our companies have developed and implemented. These highly advanced solutions may be a significant contribution, we believe, to the development of the industry in Southeast Asia as well. As a result of the ambitions we see in this region, and Singapore's 30 by 30 strategy is one clear example, Team Norway is working with partners in the region, as well as companies from Norway, to identify opportunities, and I'm sure we will see a lot more cooperation in this area in the years to come. I wish you all the best with the discussion in today's webinar and the further webinars to come. And I thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Now, we would like to invite the first plenary speaker. Her name is Tanya Hull, General Manager of Hatch Accelerator Norway. Tanya is a marine biologist with a background in ocean ecosystems and aquaculture from the University of Bergen and Hawaii Pacific University. And she has more than 20 years of experience in this aquaculture industry. She also founded a Norwegian Centers of Excellence, the Seafood Innovation Cluster in Norway in 2015. Tanya, I pass the time to you.
Thank you so much, Anton, and thank you so much for the organizers for hosting this event and for the kind invitation for Hatch to hold this keynote opening presentation today. I am with you all live from Hatch's offices in Europe, in Norway. I am in Bergen, which is the Silicon Valley of the salmon farming industry. Hatch, we are a global innovation and a venture company. We were founded by our co-founders in 2017, and we kicked off our first global aquaculture accelerator program in 2018. Since then, we have been launching 4 global accelerator programs, and Singapore and the Southeast Asian region has been a very important region for our accelerator and venture activities. Our global accelerator programs has been a program that we have traveled with innovation and technology companies across 3 continents, from Europe to Norway, over to Asia to Singapore, and across to the US and to Hawaii. This is all about how we can support the aquaculture industry with knowledge transfer and technology transfer and making an impact when it comes to the sustainability efforts of this important emerging industry moving forward. We have also our own investment fund, investing into new technology solutions that we are confident will bring the industry in a more sustainable direction. And thirdly, we have also launched our advisory services called Hatch Innovation Services, which I am head of, supporting corporates, supporting investors, and also supporting governments when it comes to succeeding and investing into the blue economy, and also to manage to grow and sustainable develop the industry moving forward. We have invested in 37 technology companies in the aquaculture industry. We invest in technologies globally. This has been very important for Hatch because this means we are looking for platform solutions that we can see that can have an impact on innovation across different regions of the world, but also across different species. Our 37 investment has also enabled us to have a lot of expertise when it comes to the industry challenges, route to market strategies, and also how we together can work with partners and governments when it comes to supporting a very viable and a vibrant innovation and venture opportunities for new growth in the aquaculture industry. As I mentioned, for us to be a global organization, it has also been very important to us to invest in resources in our presence. We are, as I mentioned, both present in Norway, also in Asia with our offices in Singapore, and also in the US in Hawaii. And this has enabled us to have a very close collaboration with regional partners in these important aquaculture markets. I just wanted to highlight some of the examples of the technology solutions that we have successfully launched to the global aquaculture industry. Monoline is an example of an AI company providing artificial intelligence to the salmon farming industry when it comes to making more proactive actions towards the fish health and fish welfare challenges that we see in the salmon farming industry. This is really important for the industry to be able to have a sustainable development and also for them to enable a sustainable growth moving forward. It is very exciting for us to see young talents, young people having that passion and interest when it comes to supporting the industry with their knowledge and bringing new enabling technologies to the industry. Dynaspace, another technology company using satellite technology when it comes to monitoring biomass in shrimp ponds. This is also a very interesting story, how again, young people with their technology and interest to the aquaculture industry want to contribute to find new innovative solutions. A very good example with Dynaspace is also the knowledge transfer between Norway and also other regions of the world, where we are bringing Norwegian technology from Norway to support sustainability challenges in other parts of the world in other species. Vitaya Aqua, also an impressive technology platform supporting the aquaculture industry with new novel feed solutions. As you all know, feed is one of the largest sustainability challenges that we have in the aquaculture industry, and identifying and finding new novel feeds, new sustainable feed ingredients is really important for the industry to move forward. Vitaya Aqua has created an AI platform supporting the industry for the development of new sustainable feeds. And lastly, Aqua Connect in India also have been a successful aquaculture technology company providing small-scale shrimp farmers with a market platform and open access when it comes to technologies and solutions for them to more sustainable monitor water conditions within their ponds and activities. Also recently has been rated to be one of the most successful startup companies in India last year. Hatch is very interested to invest and support both Singapore and also the Southeast Asia industry to move forward. We are currently working actively with global multi-corporate partners when it comes to supporting them with emerging aquaculture opportunities into these industries. We are working both with shrimp and also with salmon projects being developed into these regions. We're supporting corporate partners when it comes to developing new novel production systems, when it comes to digital solutions, and also supporting when it comes to the development of new novel feeds. We're also supporting early stage ventures. Our global accelerator program and also our recently innovation studios is all about identifying and supporting new innovations that we can bring to the industry to help the industry sustainable progress. Also through our investment fund, we are investing in the solutions that we are confident will make an innovation impact when it comes to sustainability and also to increase the growth and production in these regions. We are also having a very close monitoring when it comes to the opportunity areas. Asia is a very important region. It stands for a massive production when it comes to the global aquaculture production moving forward. And we are also having within our market analyst team also working closely with the industry, trying to identify what are the challenges, what are the opportunities to make sure that we also are focusing on the technologies that really can bring solutions to the industry actors. For me, it has been really interesting to be working now with Hatch. My background has been working very closely with the Norwegian aquaculture industry, now working very closely with the Asian aquaculture industry, and it is two very different industries, both when it comes to the value chain, when it comes to the level of consolidation, and also, of course, when it comes to the cost structure, and also when it comes to the number of players. Within the salmon farming industry, the top 10 global players stand for more than 80% of the production, and they also have a very integrated value chain. So it's a quite transparent industry when it comes to also supporting new innovation and the route to market strategy behind that. In Asia, it's a very different picture. It is massive, but also a very different value chain and also many, many more small scale farmers. And this is really important to us to understand the different kinds of dynamics in the different kinds of markets and also the different kinds of needs, so we also can support with the best strategies when it comes to technology deployment and also route to market for these new kinds of technologies. Given that we are present in these different regions, has also enabled us to see where are opportunities for knowledge and technology transfer. Coming into the shrimp farming industry, which is a very important species in this region, both in terms of economic growth and also when it comes to production growth. In 2019, we did a massive research when it came to mapping out the technology and innovation opportunities within the shrimp farming industry. That knowledge we have openly shared, so I invite you all to visit Shrimp Farm Tech, where you can find a very comprehensive overview of the opportunity areas for the shrimp farming industry and the needs they have for new technologies. Some of the technology areas that we identified was within infrastructure, operation, communication, when it comes to new AI, IoT solutions, and of course, in the power supply, water monitoring, water logistics, aeration, new feed solutions, of course, water quality and growth monitoring. We truly believe that new enabling technologies will be important and opportunity areas to drive the growth in this industry moving forward. Recently, we have also partnered up with Innovation Norway in Singapore to see how we can support knowledge transfer and also technology transfer between Norway and Singapore. This has been a really interesting study, and we have went into the market and have provided a very comprehensive aquaculture landscape study. And we have talked to all of the larger aquaculture farmers when it comes to their problem statements. And we are also now together with Innovation Norway and partners of Innovation Norway mapping into to see where we can identify relevant technology and know-how from Norway that can support the future growth in Singapore and also within the Southeast Asia. And we definitely see here opportunities, both as Anita Nergad mentioned, both within new novel production systems such as RAS being invested into, also new digital technology solutions such as AI, but also IoT to make sure to improve water quality and water treatment solutions. And also looking into new feed solutions, both when it comes to supporting new sustainable feeds, but also to improve fish health and also fish welfare perspectives. This report will be finalized by next week, and we look very much forward to going into these opportunities areas with the partners from the Singapore regional ecosystem. As mentioned, Hatch, we are strongly present in Singapore, working closely with the innovation ecosystem down there, together also with Enterprise Singapore. We definitely see a strong opportunity for Singapore to be the go-to hub when it comes to innovative solutions in tropical aquaculture. Our goal is to support the innovation ecosystem in Singapore, and bringing in new technology solutions and opportunities to this region to support the industry to solve some of their major challenges. We have also this year launched a new series of innovation studios. These are targeted innovation workshops to identify new technologies, new innovation projects that can help the very specific challenges that we see in these regions. We are launching one now in Singapore in May, and these innovation studios are targeted for early stage companies, but also for later stage companies or research teams that have an innovation, a solution that can help and support the industry with some of their challenges. We really encourage you all to go into our website and see if this program can be an interesting opportunity. And we also encourage both industry and partners to join us in this open innovation community moving forward. I would like to thank you all for this invitation and great opportunity, and look very much forward to the excellent presentation and discussions later today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tanya, for the sharing on the trend and the opportunities in the sustainable aquaculture. And for the audience, as a reminder, if you have any question for Tanya and our next plenary speaker, please submit your questions in the Q&A panel at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll try to address as many questions as possible during the Q&A session after the presentation of our next speaker. So now I would like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Chiang Chun-Hui, Deputy Director, Aquaculture Department, Urban Food Solutions Division of Singapore Food Agency. Dr. Chiang leads SFA's Marine Aquaculture Centre, which was set up to spearhead tropical aquaculture technology development. He obtained his PhD from the National University of Singapore while he was at Temasek Life Sciences Laboratory, working on understanding the genetics of sex change in the Asian sea bass, which is a popular aquaculture species in Singapore and this region. Dr. Chiang, over to you, please.
Thank you, Anton. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chun-Hui from the Singapore Food Agency. Let me start off by introducing the agency that I'm from. So SFA was formed in April 2019, and our mission is to ensure and secure a supply of safe food. And to this end, we had announced a Singapore food story in 2019, and there's 3 food baskets to this. The first is to diversify import sources. Singapore imports more than 90% of our food, and hence it is important for us to reduce the risk of reliance on any one supply source. The second basket is a grow local, which I will mention more in the later slides. And the last basket is to grow overseas. So our companies and farms.
Chun-Hui, sorry to interrupt. I think you forget to share the slides.
Oh, so sorry for this.
No problem. Okay, we can see it now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So good afternoon to all. Let me start off with the SFA. So our mission is to ensure and secure a supply of safe food. And in this regard, we have the Singapore food story. So as I was saying, one of the last basket is the grow overseas, where we support our companies to expand and grow so that overseas, so that the produce can be potentially exported back to Singapore. So coming back to grow local, we have a 30 by 30 goal that is to produce 30% of our nutritional need by 2030. So local production will buffer impacts of major overseas food supply disruption. It will also mitigate impact of climate change and resource constraints. And in the long run, we can potentially close the production loops so that we can reduce our reliance on external agri-input sources and to strengthen food production capabilities. So for the picture on the left, bottom left, you can see the healthy plate, which is from the Health Promotion Board. And what we are targeting to produce locally is the fruits and vegetable piece, as well as the meat and others, which is the protein. So with this, aquaculture is one of the key sectors that will contribute to our 30 by 30 goal in terms of protein. Currently, our industry is still small. We produce about 4,200 tons in 2020. And if you look at the picture on the left, there are 2 key types of fish farms. One is the land-based fish farms, which are mainly found in the northwestern part of Singapore, the Lim Chu Kang area. And the other are the sea-based farms, which are found in the Straits of Johor, the northern part of Singapore, as well as the southern waters. And as you can see, we do farm quite a wide variety of species in Singapore. To achieve the 30 by 30, our farms would have to adopt innovative solutions and technology. there are many challenges that our industry has to overcome. So this includes limited resources. So we are limited in terms of land, sea space as well, manpower and energy. We also need to deal with the effects of climate change, such as the adverse weather conditions. And lastly, our farm operations should also be cost effective and environmentally sustainable. So if you look at the picture on the right, these are some of the challenges that are faced by our coastal farms. So for example, the plankton blooms, oil spills, and also low dissolved oxygen conditions. So in light of this, our farms have to innovate and adopt technologies so that we can really increase our production. And indeed, our farms has responded. And this slide shows a snapshot of some of the farms that have adopted technologies in one way or another to improve their productivity, sustainability, and climate resilience. I shall go through some of the interesting innovations that I think and to share with you what they have done. So one of the traditional land-based farms are open pond culture or open tank-based culture. So we know that these are vulnerable to adverse external environment conditions, and they also have low productivity. So but our farms have adopted recirculating aquaculture systems, which are closed systems, and they can farm them in higher density to intensify production. So two examples are, one is Apollo Aquaculture, which has done multi-tier farming systems. If you were to drive past Lim Chu Kang, you'll see an impressive building there. And it is there they are building this and the production will commence. The other one is Blue Aqua, BOAT, which is doing the farming within an industrial building, doing it indoor. So it also utilizes the RAS in its own configurations so that they can farm some of the freshwater species in a very intensive manner in an indoor space. Coming to our coastal farms, on the left is a picture of an open net cage farm, and also that's vulnerable to external environmental conditions, as I mentioned just now, and there's also no control over some of the disease spread. So some of farmers have adopted solutions to overcome this. So one of them is Mr. Malcolm Ong from the Fish Farmer Private Limited. He used IoT solutions in which he equipped the farm with real-time water quality monitoring systems that will send an SMS alert to him when the water low dissolved oxygen conditions is detected. And then he can activate mitigation measures such as the battery operated air blowers so that the DO can rise and he can avoid the case of mortalities. Besides this innovation, recently we have also seen these floating closed containment systems that has come up. So currently we have two companies deploying this technology. One is Singapore Aquaculture Technology, SAT, and the other is the EcoArc by Aquaculture Centre of Excellence. This is essentially putting tanks on top of a platform so that you can treat the incoming seawater and to improve the quality so that you can farm fish intensively, as well as providing them with a better environment, and also allows opportunities for some of the waste to be collected. And in the case of SAT, I have seen how the farm has progressed with this innovation, starting with small tanks on a wooden platform, which shows to be working, but the wooden platform is unable to support larger tank systems for greater energy efficiency or to support mechanization features. So the farm has, over the years, improved on the systems, and today is quite a huge barge with very huge tanks on it. The system that we see is the EcoArc. It is a purpose-built system so that the processes surrounding aquaculture are optimized, and it's also running on an energy efficient manner. Coming to our southern waters, currently we have one farm, which is Barramundi Asia. It is an open cage farming system, but it's not employing Norwegian open cage technology, and it also has a land-based nursery on Pulau Semakau that employs these recirculating aquaculture systems. There is also a lot of knowledge and technology in these systems. First, they use sea bass or barramundi, which are selected for faster growth, getting it from Allegro Aqua. And they also have their own subsidiary company, UVax, that develops autogenous vaccines that will help them to overcome fish diseases and to ensure that the survival rates remain high for the farms, for the fish. So to plug the gaps where the existing solutions cannot achieve, we have a R&D program So this is our Singapore Food Story R&D program that is implemented by both SFA and A-Star. So for the first team, which is Sustainable Urban Food Production, it is about the for aquaculture as well as our urban agriculture. And at the same time, we are also looking at the future with regards to alternate proteins. But the key principal considerations must still be food safety, be it our urban food production or future foods. Hence, we also have a third team on food safety, science, and innovation. So this recently we have announced the setup of this future-ready food safety hub for Fresh, which is hosted at NTU. And we do have a increasingly vibrant research and education ecosystem that can support these R&D activities or needs by our farms. And this slide shows a snapshot of the various entities that's around doing aquaculture research as well as education, and as well as our own SFA Marine Aquaculture Centre, where I'm from. So I'll share a bit about MAC. We were set up in 2003, and at that time, one of our key roles was to ensure that there's a consistent supply of quality fry for our farms. And with this, we had to transform hatchery production from being an outdoor system into an indoor system. And with that, we have managed to achieve much higher survival rate and to produce it in a smaller footprint. So this makes it possible for Singapore to produce our own fingerlings for our own production. We have also collaborated with our local IHLs and RIs on more projects, on R&D projects to overcome challenges faced by our farms. So these are some examples shown here, such as the collaboration with Temasek Life Sciences Laboratory on genetic improvement of Asian sea bass. We also work with our farms to implement some protocols to overcome a big belly disease in Asian sea bass hatchery production. We have also worked with another government agency, GovTech, to help us automate some of the more labor-intensive work like counting of rotifers, a microorganism that's needed in hatchery production. So to enable our research ecosystem to conduct R&D, we are providing shared facilities for research as well as incubator space for commercialization and test bedding of R&D results. So this deck shows a list of some of the view of some of the facilities and R&D infrastructure that our researchers in Singapore can tap on to do their R&D. So in all, we also have a neighbor, which is the St. John Island National Marine Lab, which has quite a bit of the lab facilities. Well, on our end, we have quite a bit of the wet lab facilities. So together, we can provide researchers needed for aquaculture research and trials. And we welcome companies, both local and overseas, to come together to work on innovative solutions for aquaculture. So lastly, to cap off, if you are in Singapore and next time you are going for your grocery shopping, so remember to choose fresh and choose local. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chiang, for sharing about the landscape of innovation and the players in Singapore aquaculture industry. Yep, I would like to invite Tanya back so that we have, I think we have about 10 minutes for Q&A discussion. And I think the first question is to both of you. I mean, the overlapping topic or theme seems to be that whether it's from Norway or whether it's from Singapore in the region, technology and innovations are key here, right, to boost the industry. So what can we learn from the success in the salmon industry in Norway in terms of adoption of technologies, and how we can in that sense learn from that and apply it in the Asian or in the Southeast Asian context? What are the challenges maybe to even do that? maybe
Well, if I may start, Anton, thank you so much for that question. I would like to refer back to Mr. Wong's opening remarks. I think it's all about collaboration, all about really nurturing that kind of open innovation culture. I think that has been a key success to the salmon farming industry in Norway, is that it has been a very close collaboration between the government, the R&D community, and also across the salmon farming players. So even though they are competitors when it comes to the market, when it comes to really solving some of the major sustainability challenges, there has been a very acknowledgement that we have to solve this together. We are all in the same open systems. We are all sharing the same fjords. So if we are going to succeed, we really need to have that open industry collaboration when it comes to innovation and technology. And secondly, I think also it has been a fantastic innovation arena that the salmon farming companies have provided to also new innovation solutions to for the R&D community. So we definitely see there has been a very open approach, a very open collaboration for R&D partners, also new innovation companies to approach the farmers to test and trial and have these open discussion in trying to identify solution that can work in the system.
Thank you, Tanya. Dr. Chiang, do you have anything to add on that? Like how Singapore approached this when it comes to choosing what is the right technology to be adopted that can, of course, fulfill the objective of 30 by 30.
I agree with what Tanya has said about the Norwegian aquaculture industry, that collaboration is important. And coming back to this part on technology and what you have asked, so indeed, we don't really pick any technology. So different technologies have their own merits and have their own a cost structure that will determine how they can market their fishes. And if you look at my earlier deck, over in Singapore, we do farm quite a lot of species, and we also have different environments for farming of fish. So if you, in these aspects, we see different systems coming out. So in a sense, a little bit different from Norway is that we do have quite a bit of variety, diversity in how we farm. So I would think that it's actually quite exciting and to develop and look at the land-based systems or even the floating close containment system. There could be innovations, and some of this would be relevant to different parts of the world. For some places, a floating close containment may be useful, and for some places, it would be a land-based farming development.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chiang. And I think to the next question, I think we can't run away from the topic of sustainability when it comes to boosting production of protein or in aquaculture, right? And I remember, Dr. Chiang, you mentioned in your slides that for SFA, you also look very closely to the safety of the products or the processes. So when we think of, okay, sustainability, and then you have of the environment, and then you have to think of maybe even the welfare of fish or the farming, and then plus the safety. This will be perceived as all added costs on the production of the produce, right? So how do you align that? Is that even possible to adopt technology? You know, yet on one end is you are able to produce more, but it is more sustainable. Can they go together? And do you have an example of that?
Yes, okay. It's an interesting question. Definitely they go hand in hand. So Singapore is a very small country. We do not have many spaces, and therefore for every space we have, we need to make sure that the environment remains suitable for farming. And if we damage it, we have no more space to do farming. So therefore sustainability is important in this aspect. And to incorporate some of these measures, indeed, they may raise costs, but we do have some schemes. For example, recently we announced the Agri-Food Capability Fund, the ACT Fund, or the Agri-Food Cluster Transformation Fund, which will help farms to co-fund some of these adoption of technologies that will help them become more resource efficient and also be more productive in these aspects. So in this way, this will help them to adopt technologies so that in a way some of the operating costs can also be reduced. For example, if you have automated feeders, then you will rely less on manpower, which is also another constraint that we have. And overall, all this would also raise the quality of our local produce and make that more sustainable. And this is a value proposition that our local produce have.
Thanks for that. Tanya, what do you see in the other parts of the world maybe?
No, I totally share Junhoo's perspective on that. And I think we all agree that sustainability is a prerequisite when it comes to actually having an industry to be able to grow. And we definitely see that within sustainability, I mean, fish welfare, transparency when it comes to the environmental impact, and also transparency, and also when it comes to the value chain, and also when it comes to food safety is important sustainability topics. And here we definitely see that these new enabling technologies, when it comes to both if it's blockchain or AI and IoT, that can document how the industry is actually performing and impacting its environment, it's becoming more and more important, especially from a consumer perspective. And we see this strongly now being driven, especially now in Europe and also within the salmon farming industry, that sustainability and the license to operate has changed the game quite substantially. So I think these enabling technologies is all about how one, of course, can increase production efficiency and so on, but it's also about making sure that consumers support that kind of growth moving forward, and they have the trust, and we can enable to have that transparency when it comes to the production and impact of that value chain to the environmental systems.
I see. And well, there's an interesting question in the Q&A that when we talk about price, I mean, it's all good, right? It's sustainable and it means the welfare of the animals. But I suppose there will be, whether it's incremental or significant cost addition, right? By adopting the different technologies. But from what you look with at the consumers' behavior, do you think they are receptive to be paying a premium when it comes to something that is more transparent, more sustainable? Do you see that trend, whether it's in Singapore or in Norway? Maybe Dr.
Yes.
Do you think Singaporeans will pay more for the food that is produced locally?
Yeah, I think that is a very interesting question. And I think that is something that I think the industry also needs to be better to communicate. What are the premium qualities, the premium attributes that they can bring to that kind of a market? Right now, of course, as everyone knows, there's a lot of different kinds of sustainability certifications out in the market. So there are different ways how the industry is trying to communicate it to the consumers. But I think it's really challenging for the consumers to navigate across all different kinds of certifications and standards moving forward. So I think also being able to maybe to communicate it more, but we also see now that there are other incentives that also can support that kind of sustainability investments. We see now in Europe with the new taxonomy being put into place, which is a carbon tax on different kinds of products. And these kinds of government incentives, when it also comes to carbon gas emissions on different kinds of products and production, could also be very positive incentives when it comes to also trying to push new investments and also helping the consumers to make more sustainable choices when it comes to their food.
Yeah, that's interesting observation. And yeah, I agree. I think that is required in order for and there's still a lot of work to be done, right, to achieve that goal. And Dr. Jiang, you have anything to add on that for the Singapore side of things?
well, for Singapore, I mean, local produce may command a premium over over other imported sources, but there are some quality and value propositions from local produce I've mentioned. They are closer to home, so they are fresher, and they also means that there's less waste involved during the transport. And SFA has also been working with our retailers to encourage them to stock more local produce. And we have also heard from our some of our local farms that during this COVID period, the online sales have picked up. So I think over time, as the quality of the produce is being recognized, I think Singapore consumers will get to love our homegrown produce.
Yeah, we do see that trend going here in Singapore. And yeah, I mean, we still have many more questions. Unfortunately, our time for the plenary is up. I hope, I mean, for the audience, if you have the contacts of Dr. Chiang and Tanya, you can contact them if you have any specific questions for them. And so thank you very much, Tanya and Dr. Chiang, for the presentation as well as for this discussion. And without further ado, we'll proceed to session 1 on advancing new species in aquaculture farming. My colleague Keith Lu will facilitate this session. Keith, over to you.
Hi everyone, welcome to the first breakout session of the day. My name is Keith and I'm the People Manager of the Aquaculture Innovation Centre.
There's a little bit of echo.
It's a great pleasure to be the moderator for today. I think recently we've seen a decline in marine catches for the last decade, and this is due to many factors, right? Such as overfishing, mangroves, deforestation, carbon effects.
There's still this background noise. Maybe if you can do without.
And now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I think this phenomenon has really created a strong impetus for land-based farming, right, of finfish, crustaceans, mollusks. And in this session, the speakers will discuss the development of new marine species and husbandry to support sustainable aquaculture. Today, we have 3 distinguished speakers who will be sharing with us the exciting developments that they have been working on. So before we begin, I'd like to remind all participants that should you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them in the Q&A panel at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we'll bring them up at the end of the 3 presentations. Okay, we're running a bit short on time, so we'll just consolidate all the questions and we'll ask the speakers right at the end. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Diana Chan, Deputy Center Director of the Aquaculture Innovation Centre, Singapore. Diana currently serves as the President of the Asian Pacific Charter of the World Aquaculture Summit. She's also in the Working Committee for the Global Conference for Aquaculture Innovations organized by FAO. Believing that innovation and technology development is the key to sustainable food production, Diana is here today to share with us her mud crab hatchery project. Let us welcome Dr. Diana Chan.
Thank you very much, Keith. I would like to share my presentation slide. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Keith, for the introduction, and thank you very much to the organizers for having us on today's webinar. Before we actually go into the slides presentation, I thought that we could go a little bit on the introduction of AIC, the Aquaculture Innovation Centre. Aquaculture Innovation Centre is the National Centre for Aquaculture that's funded by Enterprise Singapore, and it is the only centre of innovation that is operating on the consortium model, and you can see the members that are listed there. Our 3 focal areas are mainly in the consultancy services, giving training, basically skill-based training, as well as R&D in areas that are in demand or when there's actually a need, right? So hatchery, mud crab hatchery is actually one of the research areas that we are going into. So next slide actually shows the demand for the mud crabs. From the slide, it clearly shows that there's a global demand and it has actually increased by about 1.35 million tons, from the data from 1970 to 2016, according to the FAO statistics in 2018. But the recent survey done also in 2020 also shows that the demand forecast is likely to surpass the production volume of 3.7 million tons by 2026. So naturally, for the local side, there is always a demand because Singaporeans love chili crab. and one of the major restaurant supply the chain actually requires at least 1 ton every day, just to meet the local consumption needs. So locally, where do we get our crabs from? We get our crabs from overseas, from those countries that are listed there. But in 2016 alone, we had about 5,100 tons of crabs that were actually imported in that year. But however, supply has been dwindling, has been going down as much as 30% due to the climate change that sort of disrupted the breeding cycle, right? And also the overharvesting of the crabs from the sea, from the ocean, other than the poor handling and transportation of these crabs. So what we do, so in order to meet the needs of this demand for mud crabs, AIC has actually gone into this to do research, and we've actually set up a biosecurity mud crab hatchery in near Sungai Buloh wetland reserves. That is actually, you can see the farm here. The one in the red box here is actually the Biosecurity Farm, and the expanded area is actually shown in this slide here on the right side, where you can see the designated areas for the activities, be it for spawning, for larviculture, for live feed production, and for diagnostic work, and so on and so forth, right? This is to actually ensure that farm biosecurity measures are in place to ensure higher survival of these zooids and the crablets. So at the bottom pictures, you can see the RAS systems that we are running, as part of the biosecurity facility, and of course the outgrow that can be done in the concrete pond tanks that we have up 114 of them. There are two areas that we feel that they're very, very important for ensuring the survival of zooids and the crablets, and these are mainly in areas of nutrition and the health. So we talk about the nutrition part, this is what we normally do. As part of the farm biosecurity, we have SOPs in place to ensure that the live feeds that are produced under controlled conditions, like this green column here, you see the microalgae and the zooplanktons, which you see actually in the picture is the Artemia, the brine shrimp, or what they commonly call the sea monkeys. These are live feeds that are actually produced under controlled conditions, and they're checked regularly for parasites and bacteria before they are actually given to the zooids as feeds, as well as the C1 stage. But in order to actually ensure a sustainable survival or the hatchery of these crablets, we actually go into, we feel that the pellet feed making is very important, so as to actually reduce the reliance of feeding the crablets with trash fish, squid, shells or mussels or shrimps. So we go into pellet feed making. The advantage is that it actually enables us to sort of like develop and customize the needs of the crablets during its developmental stage, but we also are able to test the quality of the feed to see whether they are water stable or do they actually crumble and cause nutrient leaching. We also actually do testing to ensure that there's digestible as well as palatable to the crablets. The other area that of research that we actually stress very much on is actually the biosecurity, the hatchery biosecurity and the health management, because we get the buried crabs from the wild, and because of that, we are actually the primary source of pathogens. So we do a lot of screening, conditioning and treatment, prophylactic treatment of the mother crab first, before we actually use them for the hatchery and the larviculture process. So the screening actually is carried out not at just that stage, but it's at actually every stage of the process in the production of the crablets. We do screening of the live feeds, to ensure that they do not have any bacteria or Vocicella, as the parasite that's present in the medium. We also do regular checking of the zooids as they transform from the zooid 1 to zooid 5 and the megalopod stage, as well as the crablet stage. Right, so this is what we normally would do, and as such, we have actually managed to cover the different developmental stages of larviculture, right up to the C1 stage and up to and it's still ongoing. So it takes about at least about 30 days to complete from the Z1 to the crablet C1 stage. But the research is still ongoing. What you see in this on the bottom right hand side is the juvenile crabs that we have managed to actually grow them up to in a sustainable way. So with the aim, we want to close the loop in the micro hatchery, and hopefully we can supply crablets to the farms for grow out, or for those farms who actually intend to do soft shell crab, and so on and so forth. So we are hoping that we can actually produce the crablets at the stage of C1 to C4. So in C4 crablets, they're about 1.4 mm. Okay, 1.4 centimeter in stage, in the size. So lastly is the outcome from the hatchery. What we want to do is that in order to ensure sustainable hatchery, we want to do away with the reliance on the trash fish, as feed for the crablets. So we are going very much into creating pellet feeds, that are digestible, that are palatable, and also water stable, so that there's no nutrient leaching, and also help in the water quality management during the process of the crablet production. Likewise, for the laviculture, we find that live feeds are something that we cannot go without, because the zooids at this stage, especially in early stages, they do not have the digestive enzymes, and they depend very much on the live feeds, the rotifers, to actually give them. So we are trying to actually develop better quality live feeds, so as to ensure higher survival and bring them through this transformation stages, and we hopefully reduce the death syndrome. And in the process, we want to produce, or targeting to produce at least a specific pathogen-free C1 to C4 crablets, for the farms, for local farms. At the same time, we've actually developed an aquaculture RAS system, recirculation aquaculture system for indoor crab hatchery and laviculture. So in the future, we want to do development of SPF good stock for quality egg supply and seed stock supply. Because right now we are all relying on the wild caught barred crabs. So we hope that we can actually create a good stock, solely for this purpose. At the same time, the live feeds is important, so we want to actually develop a library of microalgae and zooplankton, so as to ensure consistency in the quality and the nutritive value that we can deliver to the zooids for their nutritional needs. Since health monitoring is actually a very important part, we want to develop on-site pathogen detection kits as part of regular monitoring for the laviculture and the crablet stage. At the same time, in the end, we want to also develop, look into researching a smart mud crab hatchery system, right? So as to actually reduce the reliance on the man hours in terms of our water quality change, monitoring, and water change, and so on and so forth. So just second last slide is actually to acknowledge, we'd like to say thank you to Enterprise Singapore for funding the project, to Temasek Polytechnic for actually providing the support through the students, the interns that we have for the project, as well as the facility that is provided for the feed making, as well as the crab hatchery in the initial stage of our project. Our mud crab project team members, thank you very much. We have Dr. Lee Chiwi is the center director, and we have Soon Hao is actually the intern from NTU. So last but not least, this is the last slide. If you have any questions, please feel free to email to me. My email address is there, but we also have the hotline for AIC. So please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Diana, for that really insightful presentation. Okay, in the interest of time, Dr. Diana, we'll be moving your Q&A session right to the end, okay, with all the other three. So next, I'd like to introduce our second speaker, Dr. Ben Gratus, who's a genomics solutions expert at NRG in Israel. So Ben has been working in the biotech computational biology industry for the last 10 years. And before joining NRG, he was working at Evogene for over 8 years in both research and business development positions. Ben has led all aspects of innovative computational platform development, including market assessment, scientific design, platform design, execution and management, and in vitro validations. So I'd like to hand the time now to Dr. Ben.
So hi everybody, I'll share my screen. While I do that, I want to thank the organizer for inviting me for this very nice panel. It's very nice to hear all of these presentations. One second. Okay, is it in slide in presentation mode?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, so once again, hi, my name is Ben. I'm from Energene. I'm a genomics solution specialist, and Energene. I'm not going to speak about a specific species. Energene is a company that in general help optimize variety development and production through genomic AI solutions. So we were founded in 2010. We went in IPO like 2 months ago in Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, raised around $30 million, and our first product was launched in 2015. We are active worldwide. We have centers in the US, in Canada, in Israel, and in Europe. We completed hundreds of projects with many customers working on different species. Some of them, of course, are aquaculture species. We published many peer-reviewed, so our technology can be viewed and were reviewed by many experts in the world. Yeah. So this is just a slide showing our activity. We are active in different industrial segments. Our main business is in the seeds and agrochemical world, where we collaborate with the big seed companies like BASF and Syngenta, but we also have activity in the natural raw material, food and beverages, and cannabis and hemp industries. And the common thing for all of these is that we help improve varieties. Varieties of the big seed companies like maize and soybean, varieties for natural raw producers like Bridgestone, who produce rubber from plants. Food and beverages, where we collaborate with Enzutic for development of advanced freshwater prawns, and also in the cannabis industry for development of advanced varieties there. So our technology can help improve any kind of species, and has been shown in the last couple of years. So what do we actually offer? So we have an holistic solution for molecular breeding. Molecular breeding is developed in the last 2 decades into a level that it can help improve variety development and reduce the cost of development by 50% and increase time to market of production. On one of the recent panel presentation, Dr. Jiang shared with us the development of the CBAS and the time it took. It was almost over a decade to reach the current stage. We believe that with advanced molecular breeding, we can reduce this time by half. And this is one of the things that has been advanced in the plant world, and the aquaculture world is I think it's the youngest industry in agriculture compared with animal breeding and plant breeding. And I think that the opportunity to advance and generate new species is immense. It's like the diversity that it's amazing. We at Energen look at this as a great potential to generate and improve existing and new species using our AI technology. So I will just go fast on our technology and what we can do and accomplish. So this is our holistic solution. It's called Genome as a whole. It's a breeding platform that helps breeders take decisions in which who to cross and which progeny to select, so it will be the representative for the next generation. And so it composes of different steps and levels. So in the base of it, you have the reference genome. And the reference genome is like the anchor in which we tie all the information coming from a given species in the Genome platform. We think that Energen first product was a pipeline for de novo assembly, considered the gold standard in the world. We were the first to assemble the width and genome, and that's in the plant world. We were also the first to assemble the first female genome of the freshwater shrimp, which allow us to do a better diversity analysis on breeding population in order to choose which one we want to use within our breeding program. So reference genome is something which is very complex, and Energen technology can do it better than other solutions available in the market. We can, and the main problem with animal genomes and of course fish within is that they are heterozygote compared to homozygote genomes that are usually found in the plant world. And Energen technology can actually assemble the genome by separating between the two haplotypes, meaning seeing all the resolution of the different alleles that are available, and we don't generate a one genome which is like a compression of the two different parental lines. So this is one of the projects we did. We did several projects. For example, we assembled the rainbow trout. We also work in the shrimp world, also in the gray mullet and other fish. Our technology proven ourselves. We have several publications showing it, and this is the basis for our technology. So once you have a reference genome, the next thing you want to do is check for the diversity available in your breeding population or in other breeding materials that you want to check whether it is good for your needs and purposes. So we do that by we take our diversity tool, and we can do a relatively low coverage sequencing, compare it with the reference genome, and develop tools that will help you choose the relative the individuals that you want to get to be part of your breeding population. Based on the diversity analysis, we can then develop a genotyping solution in which is a cheap and easy way in order to check progeny and new candidates for breeding, check the genomic for any kind of markers for resistance, or even more complex traits like FCR or tail or filler weight or whatever is in your interest. Using this genotyping, we can then help in develop prediction models, starting with identification of markers for resistance, for disease, and more advanced tools like genomic selection or GWAS that can help you accelerate the advancement of your breeding program in order to reach the marker much sooner than before. I think that if we look in general at the aquaculture world, I think that the salmon in Norway is also that everybody knows is a good example on the way that it took how they reduced the FCR over time, and we believe that with many other species that are currently focusing, like tilapia, like bermundi, like sea bass, and the opportunity to reduce these kinds of traits using molecular breeding is something can be quite valuable in order to advance new varieties with these kinds of advanced traits. So this is just some of the examples of the potential project that can use energy and technology. Some of these projects are already on the way. So we can take our technology and we can assess genome and choose for non-allergenic plants, non-allergenic wheat. We can breed tomatoes for resistance to destructive virus. We recently discovered a resistance line for one of the main currently virus that is threatening the tomato technology, the Obama virus, the brown rogus virus. We can breed for improved food conversion rate and tail weight and other quantitative traits in aquaculture using the development of different molecular biology tools. Again, I can say to you that last week we just signed an extension agreement with Enzutic for the development of these exact tools in order to help with the breeding process to make it more advanced and introduce new material to the market. Another way that we can help is by introgressing of traits from wild varieties. When breeding programs are being advanced, then you can get your low FCR variety, and suddenly there is a new disease that is threatening the breeding population, and you know about a wild variety which is resistant to the disease. Using molecular tools allow you to introgress that trait into your breeding population without losing all of the advanced traits that you worked so hard for to breed in many years. So introgression of traits from wild varieties is something that we can see. We can think of introgression of traits like resistant traits, of quality traits like color and resistance to different conditions like cold resistance. This is something that we see in Israel in the tilapia, that in winter times the growth rate reduced significantly, and we are currently trying to work on a solution to increase growth rate in colder climates, in open ponds. We can also breed for a longer shelf life for tomatoes. This is something we collaborate with companies, and for other qualitative traits like taste and texture for the legumes to fit the alternative protein market that is currently being developed. Our solution can be optimized for each company regarding on their needs and the availability of genetic material. So these are just a few examples of potential things that we can achieve using our artificial intelligence technology. So to summarize, our value proposition is that we can help reduce R&D and development time and make it more efficient. Doing that, we can actually directly reduce the R&D cost. We can implement the use of big data in the decision-making process of breeders and organizations. We are relying on our partner. We are partnering with Amazon, with AWS, in order to have our data management, so we can be kind of a outsourcing of genomic analytics and data and management cloud for any partner for the generation of interesting projects in the aquaculture industry. Thank you. This is my contact. If you have any question regarding anything, I love to talk. I love to talk with new people and hear about new projects. I think that's one of the main things that is interesting about my job, that I can work one day on poultry and the next day on fish. Yeah, so thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Ben. Sorry, just before you go, there's this quick query from the audience. They just want to confirm that, do you alter the gene structure, or are you just helping select the best, pairs to then mate and crossbreed?
Well, currently we are a non-GMO solution, meaning that we are not going to alter the genetic of fish, of any species. We are part of a consortium dealing with CRISPR technology. We can offer a solution for people who use CRISPR. We are not performing it ourselves. We see that there might be a great value in this technology. We know that the main thing about this technology is understanding the genomes. The high resolution genomes can help you identify the exact nucleotides that you want to change. But currently, all of the things that I presented today, our holistic genome magic solution is based on using advanced AI genomics to increase traditional breeding and transform it into advanced molecular breeding.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ben. All right, next, I'd like to invite our third speaker, Mr. Alex Alvarez, CEO of Genome Genetics, to share on modern selective breeding and global distribution of tilapia genotypes. Genome Genetics is an Oslo-based biotechnology and aquaculture enterprise with investments in several countries around the world. Their mission? To develop and distribute exceptional genetic products to the aquaculture industry. Alex, over to you.
Thank you, Keith, and greetings to everyone from Oslo. My presentation, I think, sits perfectly after Dr. Ben Gradu's presentation. We are a company that sits between technology platforms for breeding and genetics and the market in order to propel the industry with exceptional genotypes. So Genome Genetics is part of a very large group of primary breeders with strong positions in different value chains. in the layer breeding, in the broiler breeding, turkeys, and fish. We have between 40 to 50% market shares in the poultry value chains, and around 30 to 40 in the Atlantic salmon, with our sister company AquaGen. Genome Genetics is the tilapia genetics divisions within this group. So in aqua breeding, we commercialize Atlantic salmon and coho salmon ova in Norway, UK, and Chile. And we have a company in Denmark commercializing rainbow trout ova around the world. And Genome, it's operating tilapia breeding through the 3 different brands. 2 brands we operate in Brazil, one of our most important markets, Aquabella and Aquamerica, and Genome are present for the last 20 years in Asia, and now as well in Colombia. Why tilapia? Tilapia is one of the big 3 species in aquaculture, as you can see to the right, to the left diagram. It has grown very significantly in the past years, from around 2 million tons in 2006 to around 7 million tons now. And it's much larger than Atlantic salmon and shrimp in volume, and a little bit lower in value. It's expected to grow very much in the coming years to 11, 12 million tons up to 2025, 2030. Why is that? There is a lot of supply elasticity in tilapia. Tilapia is farmed in many countries, and with a wide diversity of production systems. It's a resilience to shocks in international trade, as we have seen now during the pandemic conditions. It's primarily consumed domestically. There is an opportunity for companies like us and others to bring solutions for higher resource efficiency in the value chain. We see that Latin America is following more an intensification and consolidation strategy with large players and export-driven industries, and in Asia, a lower degree of consolidation and intensification with primarily local consumption. We also believe very much in the sustainability credentials of tilapia, that with a very low or no demand for marine proteins, with a fish in, fish out ratio of 0, few diseases, low FCR, low greenhouse emissions footprint, it's a healthy protein, it's affordable, and it plays an important social role, diversifying rural income, fixing rural employment, and especially in Asia, distributing wealth and prosperity through thousands of farmers. Why genetics? First of all, it's the power of genetics. You just need to go around and see the diversity of the natural world to understand what the power of genetics is. And I put some examples there connected to Vengrado's presentation. You can see the corn evolution and in the domestication from the wild relatives to the A, that was what was present in nature, and where we have got now. The next slide, the next graph is the poultry. There's different lines from 1957, 1978, and the lines from 2005 at different days. So you can see at 56 days the enormous difference in the genotype. And the next is a clear example from our sister company AquaGen and the Atlantic salmon industry, where the discovery of a single marker for infectious pancreas necrosis basically stopped one of the most important diseases at that time, that was IPN. The technology platform for genetics and selection has grown enormously. It's probably one of the oldest technologies available to human, from early domestication in the 12 to 15,000 years ago, to setting the theoretical foundations of inheritance in the 18th and 19th century, developing more later statistical and computational tools, and today with genomics and gene editing tools that will even propel more the development of these genotypes. So this is how a primary breeder like us look at the value chain. And so at the top of this is the breeding centers, the breeding nucleus. They are close populations of animals of very high genetic merit, from where we the rest of the animals in the value chains evolve. Okay, so for example, we can develop from barely 20 animals at the top of the value chains, GGPs, with very high genetic merit and with a low inbreeding coefficient between them. We can produce the more than 40-50 billion pieces of fingerlings needed for tilapia aquaculture worldwide. So our activities in these value chains cover the top R&D all the way to the production of fingerlings and juveniles. Our customers are the farmers, and we sell fingerlings and juveniles to them. Our responsibility in the value chain is more than genetic improvement, but it's also the dissemination of these genotypes. For a value chain to develop well, as an industry, needs year-round availability of seeds. So we make investments in distribution operations around the world to have these animals ready when the industry wants it. There's the cost-efficient and sustainable technology for seed production, and of course, those genotypes need to come free from diseases. So we structure our business in genetic and breeding operations and distribution operations. R&D genetic operations are based in Oslo, and particularly the Norwegian University for Life Science in Ås is a global hub for genetics in aquaculture breeding programs around the world. Here, we develop breeding strategies, we implement new methodologies such as genomics, we disentangle the genetic architecture of traits and estimate breeding values, and we conduct product development and documentation studies. It's, let's say, the brain of the operation. We manage today 3 breeding programs connected through 3 different brands. We are the first company to introduce Blupte methodologies early 2000s, and we are the first company to introduce genomics in tilapia very recently. This operation in Norway supports 2 breeding and multiplier operations, one in Latin America and one in Asia. These operations are designed for maintaining very high health status of the grandparents and parents. And we pursue compartmentalization certification in Brazil at the moment, which will enable us to export all around the world. We are a referent in knowledge creation and dissemination of knowledge for tilapia genetics and genomics. As you can see, several papers published recently around the matter. And then our distribution operations, there are basically hatcheries. You can see our distribution of those around the world. We are, I think, probably the #1 largest producer of tilapia seeds in the world, with a capacity of 500 to 600 million fingerlings and 50 million juveniles and growing. We manage 60 hectares of production infrastructure, around 250 females producing more than 1 billion eggs per year. We are present in 5 different countries with, I think now, 17, 18 different operations. And we are constantly seeking for opportunities for growth, partnerships, acquisitions in existing and new markets. Some examples of innovations in this value chain, I bring here is, for example, Genomar Gain. There's a product, and Genomar Protect, 2 products available for Asia aquaculture now. Genomar Gain, it's a product developed by Genomic Selection and available for farmers this year. Through this new technology, we are able to increase accuracy of selection, which is leading to 20 to 30% improvements against the baseline annual rate of genetic gain for growth, fillet yield, and robustness. Genomar Protect is another specific product which has focused on Streptococcus, which is a devastating disease in tilapia aquaculture. We have been for more than 5 years breeding for strep resistance and understanding the genetic architecture of the trait. Today, we have a product in the market that delivers an improved survivability of around 30% versus the normal product. Finally, this is how we see tilapia of the future and contribution to meeting the rising demands for sustainability, for food security. Okay, so it's a very complex picture it's no longer about just growth. We have to balance the different needs of the animal itself for welfare, of the society, of the farmer. So this is how we see the genotypes moving forward. A component of selection, of course, will continue to be focused on production and quality traits, growth, meat quality, fillet yield, FCR. More and more, we are bringing focus on the functional and fitness traits, survivability, and robustness. So selection for a specific disease resistance, selection for genotypes that are able to cope with different environments. And as well, sustainability traits that helps the farmer and helps the value chain to be more efficient and produce more for less. Temperature tolerance is a big issue in tilapia, as climate change is causing a lot of problems and temperatures going outside the optimal in many production systems. I want to thank you, all of you, and here is my email if you have any question. I want to thank Innovation Norway and the rest of the organizers for having invited us. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Alex. I'd like to now invite all three panelists back. I think we have about maybe 5 to 10 minutes for a quick Q&A and discussion. Over the last, I think, 10 to 15 minutes, we have really seen three very innovative and novel ways, right, that we can meet the rising demand for protein. So now's the time for the audience. If you have any questions, to please type your questions into the Q&A. I know there are a lot of questions on genetic editing and some of the more ethical questions. However, I would like to say that for your GMO questions, let's keep that for the next webinar. So if you want to find out more, you have to join us for the next webinar. For today, we'll be focusing specifically on selective breeding, right? So these are non-genetically modified species. Or let's just keep the discussion around that so that we can, segregate our sessions a little bit more. Okay, I think the first question I have for all panelists, and I just want to hear your thoughts on this, is, there's a lot of farms that are coming out now, and do you agree with the statement that we do not need to farm more fish, but we need to farm better fish? Do you think there's enough now, or do we still need to constantly increase our production? Alex, what are your thoughts on this, Alex?
Well, I think, of course, the supply part of the value chain is reacting to demand. So if we don't want to produce more, we need to. Humans need to eat less protein, put it that way. So for as long as that is in place, and I think that will continue to be in place, a higher demand for animal proteins, I think fish production and fish demand will continue to grow. I think the opportunity here versus other forms of protein is that aquatic protein is well done, and it's a very efficient way of producing protein in a scenario of resource scarcity. So yes, that's my.
I think they go hand with hand, because one thing I think on one of the last earlier presentation that people talked about local food, I think it was Dr. Jiang, about so with aquaculture, when you go and growing on land, you can actually grow near the customer. This is something you can see also with vertical farming in the plant industry, and this is correct for fishes also, and for aquaculture also, and I'm sure that Alvarez would like to send his tilapia fingerlings to everywhere in the world. So every large city we have like a small plant to generate fresh fish for everybody. So you do want to have a more advanced technology and continue keep growing on different parts, on different areas, but you will need better fish for doing that. You will need fish that can actually grow in different climates, that can grow in different conditions. Aquaculture wasn't born to be raised in a fish tank. They were born to be raised in the sea or in the river or whatever you are. And so natural selection, natural breeding can help you actually improve, so they can do better in those environments. So they do better in different climate conditions. So they do better with growth rates, so they can actually supply all the need of a close community that they are being grown next to. So it goes hand with hand. And I'm all for local. I believe in local food. I believe that we need to reduce greenhouse transmission by transportation of food all over the world, and genetics can give us the tool to do that in land farming of aquaculture.
Thank you. Okay, the next question I have is for Dr. Diana Chan. In light of food security for Singapore, how important do you think it is that we have a local production of our own? For example, you're doing a hatchery, right? But as compared to Alex's company, Alex sends fingerlings to different countries. But let's say in like a food security angle, how important do you think that we must keep it within the country? And then after that, Alex can reply after Dr. Diana has said her piece.
Well, in the first place, I think that we import a lot of our food, right, from other countries, at least about 95%. So we are very much reliant on the import. So to be self-sufficient, at least by a certain percentage, it is actually important to actually grow the fish ourselves. And as such, hatcheries are very important because right now there are very few hatcheries. And a lot of the farmers, they import the fries from overseas and they are having some problem with it because when they actually arrive at the farm, the survival rate is very low. So I think hatcheries would be the way to go. I think especially for finfish, if you want to meet the needs of the local consumption to at least be more self-reliant, and for food security reasons, we should be actually going into the fish hatchery locally.
Alex, do you have any views on this? Do you think it's like for food security reasons, do you think it's better to do it in country, or is it better for your company to do it in let's say, a regional headquarters before shipping out fingerlings?
No, we actually, what we ship is parent stock. We ship the parents, the fathers and the mothers of the production fish, and we fully agree that the production of seeds needs to be close to the market. Moving fingerlings, in this case tilapia, it's very expensive. It's actually anti-economical moving them by air. So no, we make investments in the countries of production that has the scale to make a business out of that. So, and what we ship again is parent stock, and then it's just very few animals that you need to ship around. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. In the interest of time, we'll have to end the Q&A session here. There are some questions that are directed to each of you in the Q&A tab, so feel free to answer those questions when you have time. You can just type your answers to some of the participants. All right, thank you. Thank you all very much. All right, so now I'd like to move on to the second session. The second session is really focused on the intensification of seaweed farming. It's been a whirlwind first session, I know, but deal with us. There's a lot more interesting things to come. When we speak about meeting rising demand of aquaculture, we cannot solely focus on aquatic animals, right? We need to also look at other things like plants. So we're talking about seaweed, both micro and macro algae, and a lot of these are gaining traction and prominence within the aquaculture industry. There's increasing attention to develop high or super intensive aquaculture farming technologies. And with the intensification of algae farming, it's important, it introduces a new set of challenges that are unique to this sort of farming, right? So this session will highlight some of these challenges and some of the developments that are coming up in high intensity farming. Okay, so our first speaker for today is Dr. Joran Chamu, Senior Scientist at the Norwegian Seaweed Technology Centre of SINTEF Ocean, Norway. She has worked on developing seaweed farming in Norway since 2008, and she has a focus on upscaling the production methods, introduction of new species, and new applications. So Dr. Chamu, over to you.
Thank you, Keith. And thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. And I am based in Norway, in Trondheim, and at the research institute that's called SINTEF. And SINTEF is one of the largest research institutes in Europe, and the ambition of this institute is to be a world-leading actor in these areas. And we are working on a long range of different technology developments. And I think this picture illustrates what we are talking about today, that we are working with ocean technologies. Just a few numbers about SINTEF. We are one of the largest in Europe, as the independent research organization. And we have about 200 employees. We run 4,600 projects last year, and for 3,600 clients. And we are based or we are a foundation. So this is a non-profit research institute. So to the seaweeds, I think it could be interesting just to give you a very short overview of the global production of seaweed and the size of this and the place it has in the world aquaculture production. And from this figure, you can see that we are producing globally now around 32,000 million tons of seaweed biomass. And it has, this is an industry that has tripled its productions during the last 8 years. So this is a really fast-growing and industry and in a very good development. You can also see that it is the largest marine aquaculture globally. If we go more into the details, we see that it is China and Indonesia that are the really big players here, and also together with some other countries in East Asia and Southeast Asia. And the species that are produced are mainly 6 species. It's Laminaria and Eushema, but also some other species like Gracilaria, Undaria, Porphyra, and Capaphycus. Since we are talking about seaweed farming globally, this is a question about the species, and I think it could be interesting to compare a bit how this looks like in East Asia and in Norway. And this is a question about the species, but also a question about the actual sea conditions that we are using for farming these species. Because when we are farming seaweed, we are cultivating the sea. We are using the nutrients that are available in the seawater. We're using the temperatures that are there, the nutrients, the sunlight, and all the conditions that are there. So we have less measures to do manipulations of the cultivation as we have when we are feeding animals, for instance. So here are pictures from China, which is the big player, as I said, and this is from the kombu farming, which is a really huge and successful industry in China. Here's a picture from Indonesia, where we can see how they are farming the Eushema and Capaphycus species, which are used for carrageenan production. And you can already see that this is completely different from the kombu production in China. So this is happening more on the seafloor and in very shallow, sheltered bays. And there's also very special that there are many women that are engaged in this industry here, and they are keeping track of the whole value chain here, from the farming to the harvesting to the processing to the product development and selling. So a really important industry for them here. In Norway, we started with the seaweed cultivation for only about 8 to 10 years ago. I think the first research project was started in 2008. And we are, this is in its infancy in Norway. And we often say that it's more like the salmon industry was in the early 70s. So, but we are learning fast, and there are many companies that are really interested in this in Norway now, and about 20 companies have started to do farming. And most of them are farming sugarcane, Saccharina latissima. And here are some examples of how this can look like. And this is a really nice biomass producer, and so far we mostly use it for food, but we're also looking into a lot of other applications for it. about farming, then we need to look at where are the best places to farm, to have good nutrients and sunlight and the right temperature. And we see that we have quite poor production potentials inside the fjords, all the fjords that we have. So they are not good for seaweed farming. But if we go further out, we see that the production will increase, and if we even go offshore, we see that it really can be good. It can be more than 200 tons per hectare, which is a really huge biomass production. And yeah, so we are using mathematical models to simulate this and to find the best areas for doing this cultivation. And this is also important because then we can find the best areas, but we can also find areas that are not already well occupied by other activities like salmon farming or by traffic or tourism or whatever the sea is used for. Another option that we have in Norway is to integrate seaweed farming with salmon farming. And we have a lot of salmon farms, and they have effluents of nutrient-rich excretion products, and these can be used as a fertilizer for the seaweed production. And so the seaweed, they will remove and recycle these nutrients, and you will have a higher biomass output per area here because you will have both salmon and seaweed. And we also see that the seaweed, they really grow much faster when we cultivate them close to the salmon farm. So this is a very good opportunity for Norway and many other countries. And this is also this fish-driven integrated multi-trophic aquaculture is also used in many other countries. When we are thinking about going further offshore with our seaweed farms, we need to develop very strong and robust farms for this. And at the same time, the seaweed biomass is not that valuable as, for instance, the salmon. So these farms can't be too costly. And we have to look at the risks here for what is the likelihood for damage and what are the consequences of damage of a seaweed farm. For instance, if we have an oil rig that is taking fire, that has a really large consequences. But if a seaweed farm is damaged, the consequences are, of course, not that. So we need a kind of a trade-off here, what to focus on. Yeah, we are working on how to have more automation, mechanization, how to make the production cheaper, because Norway is a high-cost country, and we need to lower the use of manpower. And for instance, during the seedling production, we are developing more efficient production systems. Here we have seeded thin lines, but the special thing is more the incubators that we are using that are really space efficient and that are easy to monitor. We can also use image analysis to monitor the growth of the seedlings within these tanks, these incubators, and to see when they are ready for deployment into the sea. We have been working on the development of a seaweed vessel that can be a service vessel for most of the operations in the seaweed farms, both during the deployment of the seedlings and the harvesting, and also to start preservation of the seaweed, because it will very soon start to be damaged by the temperatures or sunlight or freshwater contact. So it's really important to start the preservation already on board, if that is possible. So yeah, so this is a vessel that it will probably only be used for some time of the year. So therefore we have developed the design for models so that can be taken off, and the boat can be used for other things other times of the year. So to summarize this, we need standardization and optimization of most of the processes that we have during the farming and the harvesting to lower the production costs of the biomass, because then we can open for more different applications of the biomass, not only for high value or high price products, but also for instance, for energy or for carbon capture. And yeah, so this is needed along the entire value chain. And just finally, my last slide, I would like to draw your attention to the Safe Seaweed Coalition, which is a global partnership which has been established to support the safety and the sustainability of the seaweed industry as it scales up. And yeah, so and this is also covers the whole value chain of the seaweed farming. So thank you very much.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Chamu. Next, I'd like to introduce our second speaker, Dr. Hannah Rosenfeld, who is the director at the Israel National Center for Mariculture. She has vast experience in developing technologies for effective breeding, management of various finfish and shellfish. Among the recent achievements are the establishment of the hormone-based therapy for alleviating reproduction dysfunctions of captive bluefin tuna, grouper, milkfish, and grey mullet broodstocks. We're extremely privileged to have her speak to us today on the promising future of algae as a sustainable source of raw materials. Over to you, Dr. Hannah.
Thank you very much. I would like to start.
Dr. Hannah, you want to stop the display?
I need to change the display.
That's right.
Okay, sorry. Somehow. Okay. Just a moment. Sorry, I can't find the. Stop sharing. Try again.
Yep, that's very good. Thank you.
It's okay?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, so thank you so much for the invitation and for the presenting me. I would like to start with the short presentation of my institute. It's the National Center for Mariculture, which is situated in Eilat. It's the southmost city in Israel, just on the northern tip of the Red Sea. Foreseeing the 40 years ago, the future, the most importance of the oceans to future food reservoir, our center got a mandate to develop seawater-based technologies for culture of high-quality marine organisms and to establish the associated biotechnology. Our center R&D focus on 5 major aspects. You already mentioned the breeding and the seed production, which started nearly 40 years ago with the sea bream and the sea bass, and later on we closed the life cycle of green mullet and grouper, white grouper, and most recently we are heading a project of land-based tuna breeding, and this is one of the 5 aspects. The second is feed technology, health control, and the industrial intensive growing system. And the fifth is the algal biotech, which will be the subject of my talk today. What I would like to emphasize is that the NCM conducts multidisciplinary research and goes from very basic to laboratory scales to up to commercial scales, using cutting edge and most developed technologies. We are trying to introduce innovation to our studies to minimize waste and improve the processes, the growing processes, as to fulfill the three pillars of sustainability and in terms of environment, socio and economic aspects. I just want to further emphasize the importance of algae, which are both macro and microalgae, which are rich with natural biochemicals and that can be used for many applications. These could be categorized into medium low value, which are the most abundant, versus high value, which are more rare products. In my talk, I would like to give examples for these two categories. But most importantly, I would like to distinguish marine algae from other terrestrial plants, since these can be grown rapidly and sustainably with no demand for freshwater or fertile land, which are most restricted resources. And unlike collecting in the wild harvest of algae, I think that the controlled aquaculture can ensure reproducibility, increase yields, and enhance target compounds expression and in the algae process. So, among the ongoing projects in our center, I would like to start with something which relates to the example given by Shimpo, the mariculture waste water treatment. So we try to combine a very intensive growing system in RAS land-based recirculating aquaculture system. So downstream to microbial biofilter for nitrification and then nitrification, we add a macroalgae reactor for the polishing treatment, for nitrate removal from the marine effluents. This produced algae biomass, which is highly valuable for us. It's high protein. It is being served as high protein feed supplement for both aquaculture and livestock feeds. We can serve it either fresh or incorporated into pelleted food, as you can see here, enhancing performance of fish. And not just because this is raw material that can be further utilized for other purposes. For instance, using enzyme-based bioreactor, which we are promoting in our studies. We can further promote the catalysis of uvan polysaccharides, which construct the cell wall of the ova, and the resulting monosaccharides are raw material for synthetic biodegradable polymers like plastics, but with the advantage of being degradable up to amino acids. The idea is that it's not just for the plastic, but also for an advanced raw material for feed industry and as well as for biofuel. Following the same lines, seaweed gelling agents combined with nanoparticles are being used to synthesize functional biofibers for textile and other purposes, facilitating options for real-time sensing and slow release of target compounds. This is something which is most intriguing that we recently started. Other application is fish skin bioproducts that can be used as well as seaweed extract for the synthesis of natural films for packaging industry. And these are not only biodegradable, but their properties can also help to extend the shelf life of food products that are being packaged in these films. So the algae-based polyphenols and pigments are also can facilitate a better process for the leather industry, including fish skin, which is seen to be a very intriguing raw material for the fashion industry. Seaweed extracts as a preservative or antimicrobial agents for protection of skin and textile, and also most recently we screened microalgae varieties and identified active antimicrobial compounds that can act both on gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, which are common pathogens in the aquaculture. And the idea is to alleviate the need to extract these compounds. We can feed directly with the algae, the animals incorporated into our feed formulation, and avoid the use of antibiotics. But the most intriguing aspects that we promote in recent years are genetic, epigenetic, genome editing, and transgenesis in algae for increased production of bioactive compounds. I think that this is a future perspective that can increase yields, reduce the cost of the production, and might give an added value to the already valuable algae. So I would like to thank you for your attention.
Hi, thank you very much. Last but not least, I'd like to invite our last speaker, Mr. Philip Gu, who is the CEO of Stem Cell United.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Keith, for the introduction, and thank you for the organizer. It's my great pleasure to be having here to share my experience and my thoughts and the projects in the following slides. It's getting late. It's 2 hours already, and I have prepared my project secret, and hope this can be a refreshment to refresh you up and moisturize you. Let me draw up my project to the table. Okay, let me start with introduce myself. I'm the CEO of Stem Cell United from Singapore. Listed in Australian Stock Exchange. We're a plant biotechnology company focused on plant-based healthcare, farmer ingredient, and together with plant-based food and nutrition. I was in FAO and working as a post-harvest food consultant and SPC in a Pacific community in South Pacific. And it's my honor to share my experience and thoughts. So let me start with I'm going to start with the topics we are going to share with you today. There's 5 topics I'd like to present to you. And first is a global landscape, seaweed and alternative protein. And second topic will be on seaweed and macro seaweed in Singapore. And then the project we are doing called Secret Project. And finally, we will summarize my project and give you some takeaways. And of course, I don't forget to tell you what actually is a Singapore grape story. As one professor says, global health is a human face of climate change. Waken up by this COVID pandemic, it is an urgent call, a wake-up call for humanity to address climate change and food security crisis, not only here in Singapore, but on a global scale. Let me give you a bit of a global landscape, and just my fellow panelists also give some numbers, which is from FAO. The global production now is 32.4 million tons. And look at the number, in fact, since 2000 to 2018, 8 years already been triple. That means the demand is surging. And most of them, in fact, it produced in Asian Pacific. China is the largest, but the rest basically are in East or Southeast Asia countries. Here, one is in Singapore. And seaweed direct extract basically already in our food chain. Probably many people not realize, but there's a lot of drinks, dairy products, and formula foods that contain the seaweed extract. And recently, the demand for plant-based protein from seaweed are surging. Even in Singapore, seaweed becoming an exciting subject in marine aquaculture industry. And SCU is my company and has invested significant resources in seaweed technology innovation, and in particular, marine plant-based protein and nutrition. Let me dive into this detail of our project, sea grape and plant-based protein, and as a sustainable future food. What is sea grape? And sea grape, now some people call it green caviar. They already have a traditional 1,000 years and in Asian Pacific. In Japan, in Okinawa, they call their local name as umi buto. In Philippines, lato. Vietnam, raw nong. Malaysia, lato. And even in South Pacific, Fiji Island, they call it nama. But it also exists in Singapore. And in fact, later on, there's 9 relative species here in Singapore. It's a local species. The key valuation here is they have a good nutritional value of both in macro and micronutrient. It can mitigate this climate change by absorbing that carbon, and it's a carbon negative crops. So our company is to redefine sea grape as a new seafood, as a plant-based seafood. And let's have a glance of what we have achieved here in Singapore. And per square meter on our maximum production that goes to 23 kg. And at the same time, they can absorb 2.5 kg of carbon dioxide. And at the same time, we are doing a seed bank, which is using our stem cell technology to breed climate resilient seeds and etc. Do you know Singapore is abundant in macroalgae in seaweed? There are about 200 species in Singapore, including green algae, brown algae, and red algae. So this green color is a scientific name of sea grape. So there are 9 relatives of sea grape in Singapore water. But also in Singapore, we also have a similar species of carp and the sargassum, and also red seaweed, which is usually people believe rich in protein. And what is our project for in Singapore? So first, we are looking for natural marine plant-based protein with nutrition from sea grape and other seaweeds. And the second purpose is to achieve 1% of total local produce food nutrition, which is the Singapore government, Singapore Food Agency, and to their 30 by 30 goals. This is our project location. So we located in a beautiful island of St. John's Island, which is 20 minutes away from Singapore main island on the southern part of Singapore. There's a beautiful luxury and beautiful beaches there. So thanks for the support of Marine Aquaculture Centre and the Singapore Food Agency rendered to us to enable our company and our team able to get this project running even during the pandemic last year, and especially Junhui and your team, thank you. And now we are already get this macro seedbed ready in our facility. And now we already store about, let me see, 50 species in our strain, in our facility, and we will continue to store, collect, and research into these species we already have, including sea grape. We have 7 species over there in our facility. But we will continue to expand this and hope we can collaborate with other organizations to expand this and for us as a treasure of in Singapore Island. And these are some of the work we have been doing in the island. Not only we are collecting the strain, and also that we are building a live seaweed library there. And hopefully we can soon open to other collaboration, even public to view and see actually what, and these are 200 types of macro seaweed, which is seaweed available in Singapore. And the local strain of sea grape, we already have that in our facility. So we are use this modern technology and even the agri-Food technology to do continue R&D, including cultivate trace, a better and cost-effective raw material, precision technology, and for future use in Singapore and even to the world. We already successfully cultivate the cultivar and sea grape. The cultivation is already considered a local produce, and we are applying license from Singapore Food Agency to sell in local markets. And to make the value out of this sea grape cultivation, we also collaborate with the Temasek Poly, and we are doing future food innovation. So that including into extraction, into formulation, and into a product development, including the biscuits, noodles, sauce, and which can add the value to this local supply chain in Singapore, especially sea grape burger we are working on. Okay, let me summarize what my today's topic. And first, the takeaway I give to you is establishment of seed bank of macroalgae is important, not only to Singapore, but to the world. Seed bank is critical source for future food development to the world food supply, especially amid this global health and climate change and the temperature rising. Seaweed project can be as a sustainable urban aquaculture showcase to the world. Our Seaweed project can be a showcase for the sustainable urban seawater vegetable farming to produce natural, healthy, sustainable plant-based food and nutrition to the food market. And seaweed and seaweed as an alternative to green leafy vegetable is a game changer to Singapore food security. Just an area of football field can produce 5,000 tons of leafy vegetable per annum, which is 1% of Singapore food nutrition supply. Singapore is has limited land and fresh water, but Singapore has unlimited seawater and sunlight, which is the only requirement to grow seaweed and other seaweeds. So here is a food for thought. One football field of size of land per annum can produce 5,000 tons of seaweed. It considered as a leafy vegetable, which is 1% of Singapore national nutrition needs. So let's imagine if we can have 20 football fields, then we can produce 500,000 tons of leafy vegetable, which can satisfy 20% of food security goal in Singapore. So finally, let me unveil and introduce my team and doing this project. They are a young Singaporean, and this team call this seaweed as Singapore grapes. And these young Singaporean talent are our co-founders and the writers of Singapore grape story. So I hope these Singapore grape stories can help not only Singapore's food security and mitigate the environment, and at the same time can provide solutions for urban cities in the region and other parts of the world. Thank you. And I can be available at the following information I provide here. So I pass my mic back to you, Keith. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'd just like to take this time to invite all three panelists back. We just have one question to ask all of you before we end. So I know that everyone here is growing seaweed in different parts of the world, right? Is there how important is climate or temperature, right, to seaweed production? Are there specific species that grow better in the cold, or would it be a dream if you could just do everything in the tropics, for example? Maybe we start with Dr. Chamu, and then Hannah can answer, and then Mr. Gu after that.
Yeah, I think the temperature is really important for the species that you are producing there. So of course we can't produce sugar kelp in the tropics and Yushima up in Norway. So and we also see that even for the sugar kelp, the temperature has a strong impact. So so this is has to be correct. You can't just shift species between temperature zones. But there may be some other things that we can learn from each other, and I think that technology development for automation, for instance, can be used in Singapore and areas around there as well, and also for preservation or the product development. I also think can be more of common interest or topics for collaboration.
Dr. Hannah?
Well, I think that Dr. Chamu is really right, because technology can compensate, but for sure the climate in general, not just temperature, but also dryness and light, natural light year-round are advantages that this industry relies on because due to cost-effective aspects, but I think that the controlled system are the future.
Philip, your views?
I think it definitely will be some difference, just like our sea grape that's not able to grow in those cold waters and basically are tropical and water temperature like 24 to 29. And in tropical water are perfect for them, but at this moment it's not good for the temperate or the cold water. Hopefully we should look here in the angle of this seaweed and as a ocean forest, just like land forest in Southeast Asia. And this is marine forest in Southeast Asia. They have a lot of biodiversity. I think there's a chance and to work with other organizations, collaborate with other part of the world to find at the global scale and how this tropical seaweed and cold water seaweed, if any relationship can be combined to solve the world climate and food security issues. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think we all understand that, you know, with improvement in technologies, there's a lot more that can be done, be it in, you know, the cold or even in tropics. So thank you, everybody. I think this has been a very, very interesting webinar for everyone.